and next invite the co-chair-rapporteur at the ad hoc committee on the elaboration of complementary standards, Ms. Kadra Ahamed Hassan. Ms. Ahamed Hassan, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, distinguished delegates. It is a great pleasure to address the General Assembly today in the third committee in my capacity as Chairperson Rapporteur of the ad hoc committee of the Human Rights Council on the elaboration of complementary standards to the International Convention on the elimination of all forms of racial discrimination. I'm here to present the progress report as requested by the General Assembly in paragraph 10 of its resolution 79/161. Since my last progress report to this Assembly, the ad hoc committee has continued to advance its mandate to elaborate as a matter of priority and necessity complementary standards in the form of either a convention or additional protocol to the ICERD. At the time marked by the alarming global rise of racial hatred, xenophobia, and the proliferation of racist hate speech, both online and offline, as well as the growing use of artificial intelligence and emerging technologies, there is a heightened risk that these tools embed and reinforce racial biases, further exacerbating discriminatory practices. In this context, the work of the ad hoc committee is more critical than ever. By addressing normative gaps and reinforcing the international legal framework against racism, the committee plays a pivotal role in advancing accountability and protection. During its 15th session, the ad hoc committee engaged in substantive discussions with legal experts and received input and precise legal advice regarding the concrete elements of potential draft provision for a draft additional protocol criminalizing acts of a racist and xenophobic nature. These contributions directly responded to the request contained in paragraphs 129 and 130 of the ad hoc committee's report on its 14th session, A/HRC/57/69. Building on the foundation laid in previous sessions, the ad hoc committee reached consensus in principle that the draft additional protocol should address specific conduct outlined in Article 4 of the ICERD. In this context, the ad hoc committee examined proposed definition for the offenses of hate speech and hate crimes and explored legal approaches to address the participation in organizations that incite racial discrimination. The ad hoc committee emphasized that criminalization should be reserved for serious cases and expressed a preference for a holistic strategy to combat racial discrimination, namely one that integrates legal accountability with preventive measures, education, awareness raising, and remedial mechanisms. This holistic approach reflects the spirit and letter of the Convention and responds to the evolving nature of racial discrimination. In addition, the ad hoc committee examined concrete elements of draft provisions, including definitions aimed at preventing and prohibiting xenophobia and xenophobic discrimination, as well as racial profiling and its intersection with artificial intelligence. The ad hoc committee decided to continue elaborating and discussing concrete elements and draft provisions of a draft additional protocol to the Convention during its 16th next year session with the support of the legal experts. To this end, it has requested further input on two key areas of discussion. First, approaches to addressing discrimination on the basis of religion or belief within the draft additional protocol, taking into account the intersectionality of various forms of discrimination, including as aggravating factors. Second, measures to address acts of a racist and xenophobic nature committed online and in cyberspace, including the use of digital tools, artificial intelligence, and emerging technologies, as well as states' obligations and liability of individuals and legal entities. A highlight of the 15th session was the special commemorative event marking the 60th anniversary of the adoption of the ICERD. This event, part of the year-long campaign launched by the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, provided an opportunity to reflect on the Convention's achievements, assess the current global status of racial discrimination, and consider how complementary standards can strengthen the impact of the Convention in addressing contemporary forms of racism and racial discrimination. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, despite challenges, the ad hoc committee has made tangible progress for the first time. We engaged in substantive discussions on draft provision, which contributed to updating the chairperson's document on the scope, structure, terms, and elements of the draft additional protocol to the convention. These preliminary discussions mark a significant step forward in advancing the ad hoc committee's mandate to strengthen the international legal framework for combating racial discrimination. These efforts are paving the way for the commencement of negotiation on a draft additional protocol to the convention as mandated by the Human Rights Council and the General Assembly. The ad hoc committee remains committed to addressing existing legal gaps through the development of a modern, high-quality instrument that ensures effective protection against racial discrimination in all its forms and manifestations. 60 years have passed since the adoption of the ICERD, and nearly 25 years since the adoption of the Durban Declaration of Programme of Action. Yet, across the globe, millions continue to suffer the devastating impacts of racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance. Today, more than ever, we must move beyond reaffirming our commitment. We must demonstrate our determination to eradicate these scourges through concrete and coordinated efforts. It is highly time to walk the talk for all delegations to tackle contemporary forms of racial discrimination. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, during the last session, I was encouraged to see that representatives of permanent mission and civil society organizations continue to engage with the ad hoc committee in a spirit of cooperation and constructive dialogue. I deeply appreciate the collaborative approach and the willingness to compromise. While differences remain, there is a strong and shared commitment to the fight against racism. As we look ahead to the 16 sessions scheduled to take place in 2 one-week segments in April and June 2026, I wish to underscore the critical importance of sustained engagement from all delegations and stakeholders. Your support and continued dedication are essential to advancing our shared goal of strengthening the international legal framework to combat racial discrimination in all its forms and manifestations. In conclusion, let me reiterate that the work of the ad hoc committee remains as relevant today as it was at its inception, if not more so. We must continue to advance this mandate with determination and unity, guided by the principles of equality, justice, and human dignity. I thank you for your attention.
I thank the Chair-Rapporteur at the ad hoc committee on the elaboration of complementary standards.